All right, hey guys, we're back with another race recap video. This is the Bariani Road Race, and we're trying something different here. I'm sitting next to my frenemy, Brian Larson with Team California, and we're doing a joint commentary.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a while. We were throwing around the idea of going back and forth. It seems like I only get the non-vocal end of the stick here when I get to watch him talk crap on me out at Aviso. So here's my opportunity to actually have my voice heard and see what he has to say about it as well.
Yeah. So this is a long road race. This is a NorCal classic. This is a Bariani. I don't know how long it's been around. Probably 20 years or something at least.
It's changed courses a couple times, but this is kind of the classic course of rolling hills just north of Sacramento.
Yeah, and you get rollers. They have a KOM, which is funny because the climb is maybe 90 seconds.
Maybe.
Like 6%. It's not really a climb, but they call a KOM champion, I think, or at least they used to, for certain fields or something like that. The real big thing out here is crosswinds.
Yeah, I think the crosswinds, narrow roads, and in today's case, you'll see a lot of people with dirty butts and dirty faces. There was some rain at the start of today's race that made for some slick, tight corners on the other side of the course, which of course gives an opportunity for somebody who's at the front to not have to touch their brakes.
And this is when the weather turned, so I didn't even bother turning on the GoPro for a couple of reasons. One, the batteries wouldn't last, but it would just everything was caked in mud. I used some of the water from my bottle just to clean the lens on this, just to get this usable towards the end of the race. But to be honest, the race is over at this point, guys. We're 14.3 Ks out. I decided to turn the camera on, and we're just kind of noodling around. I guess I'll talk about what's going on, and then Brian can interject whenever he wants. But 100-mile road race, and early on I had a teammate get away in a breakaway, and I had another teammate bridge, so it was a group of 3, and I had 2 teammates in it. Problem is we were kind of burning up 2 teammates for a move that wasn't going to go the distance. I mean, you never know; it could have gone the distance, but with only 2 teams represented, and to be honest, the major teams like Team California not represented, I knew it was going to get chased back hard, especially in the crosswinds, and eventually it was. And there was kind of a reshuffle. Another group went. Team California missed again, and I was thinking there for a little bit that you guys had kind of screwed the pooch. What was going on?
Yeah, so there was 2 things happening. One, we were testing the water. So every crosswind section, we were kind of pushing it. Tyler Williams, who was riding unattached at the time and actually guest rode with us at Redlands, was out there as well in full force. I'm pretty sure he spent like 90% of the 100-mile road race in first wheel, just riding the front.
That's not an exaggeration. So in case you guys don't know, Tyler Williams was on Israeli Cycling Academy. He's legit. I would point him out, but he's already up the road.
He's gone. Yeah. He's probably done already with the race.
He's not a big guy, and let me just say something. I hate to interrupt, but let me just say something. I peeped his Strava after this race because I was really impressed with how he rode. I've raced against him before, and he just was always at the front, and he was always attacking or pulling. He was just always cutting through the wind, and just to let you guys know what it takes to win a classic like this, and just a rider of his caliber. After 100 miles, well, probably about 99, he did over 600 watts for over a minute on the finishing climb, which was funny because I thought, hey, if I was up there, I could have just stayed on his wheel and like out sprinted him at the end. But number 1, he's too smart to let that happen. Number 2, I would have been dropped within the first 30 seconds of 600 watts, and he just did 600 watts for 75 seconds, and then rode it in at like 350 the rest of the way. He's a beast.
Yeah, I think that those kinds of finishes definitely serve somebody more like myself versus a true sprinter like you, Jeff.
I can fake it in the wheels for a little bit. But.
Yeah, as soon as you're having to match whoever's pushing the front, it gets to become a different battle. But yeah, we missed the move. We missed that second move that went, but actually it was actually by choice. So the first move got caught. We were testing the waters. Tyler and I were actually kind of talking about it. And we were testing the waters through the narrow section. And right then, one of my teammates actually flatted. And there was a quick conversation that is very important to have amongst your teammates, is to know if you are neutralizing your own teammate at the back and not actually gaining anything at the front, you kind of need to pause it, take a step back. So what we did exactly that. We said, all right, hold up. We're waiting for him to rejoin the group. We waited for him to rejoin, and right when he was rejoining, somebody else jumped. And I decided that it was the best choice to let that move go, looking at the composition of that group, and we would just see how it flowed out from there, knowing full well that we still had Tyler in our group, we still had Kirk, and we still had my other teammate there as well.
And that was about, what, halfway through the race?
Yeah, I think that was almost exactly halfway through. That was like 2.5 laps into, I think we did 5 laps, right?
Yeah, 5 laps. That sounds right. 20 mile laps, 5 laps, 100 miles.
Now, what surprised me though was when the move went. So it was 3 guys that jumped off the front, rather innocent looking. Again, 3 guys with 50 miles to go with the wind. That is a non-threat. But then 3 others jumped across in this kind of weird neutralization section of everybody kind of looking around at each other. And then that group of 3 became 6, and all of a sudden that magic number.
Yeah, magic number is 6. I talk about it in my other videos. And not only did it have the right number of riders, it had the right composition other than Team California. I think you guys were the only ones that missed out, right?
Yeah, probably.
There might have been some smaller teams, but among the big major threats at the start line, Team California had missed that group. And I was kind of looking at you guys like, hey, this could work out really well for me because A, I have a teammate up the road in the break, so I have no obligation to chase. And then B, Team California missed, and they are the type of team that has the firepower to chase back that group of 6 because they weren't represented. So I was thinking, hey, this is looking pretty good. Like, maybe you guys chase it back. I'm fresh. I could win the sprint.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the big thing is neutralizing the variables of the race. So when we looked ahead to this race, we're not in the move. And we need to be in a race-winning position. We have to put ourselves in the position to win the race in order to win the race. Now, it sounds very obvious when you say it like that, but there's a few factors that you have to think about. For example, I'm not going to drag you to the line if I have an opportunity to send a teammate across to the front of the break. And there's critical points, and you've talked about it in some of your other videos, there's critical points when you can be doing the same amount of work as somebody who's behind you. The worst thing to do is to ride the front and have somebody be sitting on in the draft, like into a headwind stretch. So we made a point, once that group of 6 went, that gap grew to 3.5 minutes, like instantaneously.
Well, is it that much?
It got to 3.5 minutes coming into 2 laps to go. And we decided to light it up going over the hill, going into 2 laps to go. And that was our first initiative to say, okay, let's get rid of the people who might have sat on over the hill, and let's just see who's here to play.
And the hill is this section. It's probably, well, what do you think, like 1K, 1.5?
Again, yeah, I use hill in quotes.
Yeah.
It's barely a roller.
I'll point it out in the video here, but it's we're pointing at the screen. You guys can't see that. I'm gonna put an arrow in the video. The hill is like maybe a 1.5 Ks from the line, and we downplayed it before, but like after like the 4th and 5th time over it hurt like crazy because everyone just pushes like as hard as they can over the hill because it's steep enough where you're not really getting a draft.
Yeah, so that was really the launch board.
Yeah.
It wasn't. People tend to think, okay, I'm going to bring something back on a hill, or I'm going to close 3 minutes gap in a 90-second hill. That doesn't work like that. It's a launch board, and really the major factor for that is after the hard work is done. So you crest the hill, and you have this false flat downhill that you have to stay on the gas, sometimes even harder than you were climbing before. It feels that way anyway.
And that's a mistake a lot of people make, like Cat 4, Cat 5 racers. I see, like, they think that, oh, I'm going to close this down on the hill, because it's a hill. I'm just going to go really hard. I'm going to close it down. And what ends up happening is they find themselves in this no man's land by themselves or with somebody who, say, has a teammate up there who's not going to do any work, something like that. And they're like in between the field and the leaders. And now it's like they're out of gas. They're kind of in no man's land, and they've kind of screwed themselves. So you got to have a plan. Like if you're going to go hard over the hill, think about what's going to follow. Like if you're going to be stuck in between and you're not really a person who can ride for 20 or 30 minutes at a pretty hard clip, maybe have another plan. Like go hard over the hill, and then if you don't have the right people with you, then fall back to the group.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about what the whole effort is going to be, and like if you're actually going to last. So this is actually the point in the race when we had a rider that was with us that was tagging along, who I don't think had anybody up the road. I don't believe they did.
No. And was he a lap down?
No, he was not a lap down. So Mike's attacks here. Mike's attacks our group. You don't hear me make any commentary here, but I mentioned something to one of my colleagues in this little gruppetto race. We're still racing. I mean, there's still top 10 positions up for grabs, but it's kind of neutral. It's respectful of each other, and I kind of said, I'm going to go shut that down. So I rode across there. You see me ride across up there, and I had a couple words with the guys to just say, hey, we still got 9K to go here. You're not going to get away. Yeah. There's no money up for grabs right here. Let's just get this group to the line, and you can race it out.
Yeah. And from my perspective here, I'm behind my teammate. We just said like echoing Brian's comments. There's still 9th place up for grabs. So so my teammate Blaze here next to me, who just closed the gap for me, he told me, I'll just keep it stitched up. That was kind of our plan. Like he was just going to close all these little gaps that might open up because people might want to start attacking. They look back at guys like Bryan and myself who have a pretty good punch at the end of a race, and they want to attack on the hill or before the hill in the crosswinds, things like that. And I told my teammate Blaze, like, hey, just keep it stitched up. I'm pretty sure I can lock up 9th.
Yeah, and for my sake, I was just about ensuring that the group gets collectively to that finish line. We had, like I said, we had sent somebody across to that front group, so I actually then had a rider up the road who I knew would be punching it out for the finish and for the win. And so when me and my teammate Kirk are in a position where our teammate is racing for the win, we are selectively shutting down anything that could threaten it. Now at this point the break is gone, like 99% of the chance is gone, but the race is never won. The race is never won until it's over. So we have to ensure that everybody stays safe, that everybody gets to the finish line collectively.
And and I was gonna say, so I remember like when I was like in, maybe a new Cat 2 even, or like Cat 3, Cat 4, and I just started racing. I didn't really understand this, like when the race is over. Like at this point, 30 minutes before this point in the video, we already knew first place was not up for grabs anymore. Mm-hmm. And when I first started racing, I didn't understand that concept. It's like, well, maybe it'll get chased back. But it's like you have to look around in the group that you're in and think, like, who's motivated to chase the front riders back? Well, Team California guys aren't. They have a guy up there. Mm-hmm. Me and my teammate, we're not motivated to chase it back because we have a guy up there. So who is there left? There's a Mike Spikes kid. Did he have a guy up the road?
I don't think he did.
Okay, so he had one Mike Spikes guy, and then I think this Swift kid who was really strong, but that is 2 versus 7, and that 7 up the road, 8 up the road have already selected themselves as being the strongest in the race. So it's like 2 versus 8. We know the race is over, and that's kind of how, just to fill you guys in on like how we're making this call that the race is over for first, is who's motivated to chase and who's not in this group.
Yeah, and I think not to point you out, Jeff, but I think you actually made the error by not putting yourself in that front group.
I tried.
I mean, of course, it blew apart. It went really, really hard there. But you also have to, if you're talking about, okay, who's up the road, you have to think about, is your teammate actually somebody who can win the race? And granted, even when Tyler got up there, I knew, even my teammate's not going to be able to beat that.
Tyler Williams is, again, he's the ex-pro guy doing over 600. Like, he's a monster.
Yeah, and so there's only a select few of people who can win out of those groups, so you have to kind of play the odds. Yeah, and we had our only Cat 2 guy on our team up the road. He's searching for upgrade points. He's also kind of a dark horse. I mean, he trains really hard. He's got a huge motor, but he's like 19 years old, I think, or something like that. I didn't know how he would have done at the end of the race, and spoiler alert, he ended up 5th. Okay.
So
you got some points.
Pretty good result. Yeah, he got to stand on the box too at Bariani, which is pretty big, more than I can say. And I was happy that he made the break. So So of course I wish I could have been up there to duke it out with him, but this is the way the race went, and this was it. So now we're on the tailwind section, right?
Yeah, this is tailwind kind of rolling towards the hill, right? I think we're getting pretty close here.
Yeah. The hill's maybe in 3 or 4 K's time. It's kind of this windy, bumpy, potholey, little bit rolly road right here, and we have a tailwind, but we're still not really. The Mike Spikes guy kept attacking, like he's going right now.
Yeah, there's a couple kind of. I actually respected a couple of his little cheeky moves he did. That was one of them right there. I pulled off from the side to blow my nose there, and he kind of had nobody on his wheel. He's on the front already. You don't really want to attack from the front, but he just does this kind of sneaky roll away. And then he acts right here. He acts like, okay, you got me. And I think it was just after this where he did another one where this stuff might have worked somewhere else, but he had already put a target on his back that he wasn't getting anywhere, but he took a sip of water and he actually attacked while drinking water.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah, with one hand off the bars, and he just started kind of pushing hard.
I saw the SB2 guy emptying his bottle so as to lose weight before this 90-second climb.
This might be it. This might be it right here where he takes a sip of water. I don't know, he's going around some of the bumps and stuff.
But he wasn't getting away just because Bryan wasn't going to let that happen. I wasn't going to let that happen, and before even that came to pass, my teammate Blaze wasn't going to let that happen. So he had at least 3 motivated guys who were going to chase him back. But I don't blame him for trying, because he looks back and he's got a big motor, and he's not really a sprinter. So it's like, hey, play your card, you know.
No, he was super strong. He was actually I believe he was in the first move with your teammate as well.
Oh, was that him?
Yeah, I believe.
He's always in the breakaway.
Oh, here he is. See, that was him attacking with and then you see a hand go up in frustration behind.
Like, what are we doing?
Come on. We still got a few K to go, guys.
Hey, but like I always say, if you're doing something that pisses off your competition, you're probably doing something right. So
yeah. So one thing I used to do is if anybody told me what to do in the race, I would do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So and actually, I don't know if you notice what I do here. I actually go in front of him on purpose and actually shut the door to the right. So I don't want people attacking anymore, and I can actually selectively effectively hold him where I want to hold him, which is kind of off my heel and off my hip behind.
And these efforts might not seem big either, guys, but you're watching like miles 93 through 100 of a 100-mile race. So there's another 4 hours behind all this that you haven't seen. So we're tired in the wind, in the rain, and we're just pretty tired. It's been a difficult day.
So what's your max heart rate? Let's say what's your
It's like 183 is like the highest it gets.
Okay.
In the heat of summer, and I'm sprinting as hard as I possibly can from the breakaway. It's like 183, 184.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, I head over 200 occasionally here, which is very high for a larger rider, but I averaged 168 beats per minute for this entire race.
I don't even do that in a 50-minute crit, a 60-minute crit. I don't even average that.
So
high.
This race was hard. This race was really hard.
Yeah. Well, talk about how you guys split things in the crosswind before we hit the hill. How you guys split things in the crosswind? So
I mean, when you have a crosswind, you can selectively shut down as many riders as possible by only allowing a certain amount of people in the draft. So what we did is we put the 3 of us, the 3 teammates, Team California riders, Tyler Williams and Gianni, all of which have European racing experience, who are used to the crosswinds.
Yeah.
And we put it up there, and basically anybody who wasn't in those front 4 or 5 guys was riding just as hard, but was getting no rest.
So if the wind is left to right, you ride with just enough space, so only your teammates are getting a draft, and your last teammate is right on the edge of the gutter. That means everyone else is basically riding as hard as the front guy, and your teammates are getting a rest. So I was one of those guys that was in the gutter, not getting a draft. So what I did is I slid out, and I wanted to start another group. It's called an echelon. I wanted to start a second group because there were 15, 20 people behind me also suffering the same amount. I'm like, hey, let's just use their own medicine against them. And I started an echelon, but here goes an attack up the hill. Yeah, that's what's going on here. We're just starting into this hill, and I was wrong. It's not a K and a half. It's like 4 Ks from the finish. But are we just starting into the hill? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the hill is only 90 seconds long.
So anyway, I started this echelon, and I think I went through one successful rotation, and then people stopped rotating. So then
in the second echelon,
which is trailing behind Bryan and his teammates by maybe 3 seconds, and I tried to attack across that 3-second gap. I kid you not, it was probably a 6 minute. You guys can check my Strava. It probably took me like 6-7 minutes to close this like 4 or 5 second gap, and I was pinned like above threshold effort just to get across to you guys.
I'll have to admit I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't see that we dropped you.
I wish I had my camera going.
I was hoping to drop you there. I was hoping to look back and say bye bye Jeffy.
Yeah. And Chris right next to me did the same thing, by the way. He went a little earlier though. He had his wits about him. He's the state champ, by the way, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, especially in these longer road races, almost on an identical styled course that he won.
So that was the climb, by the way. We just came over the top of it, and that was kind of that was Mike's Bike's last effort to see if he could drop us. And I think we're all still together, right? Maybe a couple of guys dropped from that effort.
Yeah, I think Kirk might have just said, "See you later."
And my heart rate's still not where where Brian's heart rate was for the average of
for
the day.
Entire race.
And that was a hard effort for me. So
yeah.
That just goes to show you, heart rate doesn't really say much about how hard you're going, because everyone's got a different heart. And some people, they sit at 165, no big deal. If I sat at 165, I'd be toast in about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is crosswind. This is right to left. Why Mike's Bikes isn't all the way to the left-hand side of the road, I don't know. I'm not complaining. And I'm getting a solid draft right here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and so this is what we're at 2K out.
Yeah. Beware the potholes on this.
Yeah,
section,
so this was kind of one of those things where I was even pushing a little bit of wind off to your right a little bit. I'm on your wheel there because of these potholes, and see how the road just deteriorates away. That is one of the dangers of crosswinds, and the rider on the front has full vision and line of sight. And I've seen riders who ride as close to those potholes as possible, and then the last second flick out, right?
Yep.
This is actually a moment right here where I think if we were racing for the win,
you would have attacked. I was waiting for you, by the way. My head was on a swivel right there, because I know the Bryan move, and I've talked about it before, and it's like 1 to 2K out. He doesn't allow the sprinters to come along with him. I mean, Brian's got a strong sprint in his own right, but he is way stronger from 1K, which is like, he goes from 1K and it's like 95% of my sprint, except my sprint is like 200 meters.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect type of effort for me, because it's hard, it's windy, there is all this debris, and look, I mean, we're bunny hopping potholes and stuff in the last 2K.
So imagine this with sideways rain, and that's what was going on earlier in the day.
Right.
Well, mostly mud. It had mostly rained like towards the beginning. But anyway, here we go. I mean, we're getting to it now, guys. We've been talking for a while, and Mike's Bikes finished his pole. Now Chris is on the front.
Dodging potholes. Notice how he has line of sight. You have line of sight, so that's good on you for being close to the front, for being able to see what's ahead here. But then he then pushes it to the left here, and we do have a left turn coming up. And what he's going to do is he's going to keep it on the left until the last second to pull right, which means that if you want to advance before the last corner, you're going to have to go into the wind on the right side.
Yeah, and into the wind and the long way around.
And the long way, right. So, you know, you'll see a lot of lead-out trains. It kind of seems counterintuitive that they're like on the inside of the last corner, but that's forcing somebody to go around the outside. Again, this is probably where I would attack, but even we stay inside tight, this is a tighter corner than it looks like too.
So we have a couple of lumps. We're less than a K now. We're 600 meters. There's a couple of lumps. This is a pretty stiff tailwind now too. So I am not going to be riding real close to Chris, and the reason is I'm not really getting a huge draft, and plus Chris isn't pushing huge watts. So I'm looking backwards more than forwards here, because I'm waiting for the attack to come. He tries to get the jump, but I was kind of waiting for it, and I'm just kind of getting a bit of a draft here. We go down this little hill, and then I stand up and I just hold that same gear up and over this bump, and that was it. SP2 got close, but he just didn't quite get the timing right.
Yeah, a little scary here after the finish line with people on the road.
What was this?
Yeah. Those finishes are hard. One of the reasons I love this race, and Snelling is another one, when they have those dips in the finish, it makes a sprint all that more challenging, because it's not a constant effort.
Yeah.
And you timed that perfectly with using the dip to build up your momentum.
Didn't even have to change gears. I just stood up at the end.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times people do one or the other. They're either spinning too fast or they're bogged down. And you did it well there. But, you know, great racing there for you. I kind of purposely boxed the Mike's Bikes guy in again at the end there.
I think he was kind of hosed.
He was hosed. He had done some good efforts there, and I just wanted to get up on that rear view camera of yours for the finish and watch you right away, at least so I could watch you out sprint me again.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. See you at the next one.